Hey everybody, tonight we're going to have a look at my gourami tank, and while it looks quite a bit different than it did back then, it's only appropriate that we're having a look at this tank tonight because it was on this night 2 years ago, December 27th, 2014, I posted my very first YouTube video of my striped Raphael catfish in this tank. So this video is going to be a combination video of a thank you for 5,000 subscribers. I also just hit 1 million views total on my channel, and of course it is my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. So I decided to save the thanks for the 5,000 subscribers till tonight. I knew it was all sort of coming together at the same time and thought I would just put it all in one video. Last year I did a video on my anniversary, and I basically got 1,000 subscribers in my first year. I missed it by a couple of days, but more or less I hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers in my first year. I honestly don't remember what goal I set for my second year. It was either 3,000 or 4,000. I think I said 3, but was sort of hoping for 4 secretly. The fact that I'm well beyond 5,000 subscribers in my second year just astonishes me. I can't believe so many people enjoy my videos and I get so many new viewers so quickly. I get a lot of great viewers, I get a lot of comments and a lot of conversations, I get to talk to a lot of people and meet a lot of people. So I've really enjoyed my couple of years that I've been doing this so far, and while I've had my ups and downs, and I probably still will continue to, overall I really enjoy doing this and have no intention of slowing down or stopping or anything else. In fact, I've just started my new native tank project, as a lot of you know, and I've been doing some tank maintenance and shooting videos of that, etc., etc. So there's plenty of good stuff coming up. Recently I set up a quarantine tank, and I'd actually set it up with a bunch of my sort of leftover original stuff that I had started with, and I kind of did it out of nostalgia. I kind of did it out of necessity. I needed to put some stuff in a tank, and so that's kind of what went in there. I kind of smiled knowing my anniversary was coming up. I just thought that would sort of be appropriate. The SpongeBob pineapple was my very first piece of tank decor ever. So I thought for this video, excuse me, I thought for this video, since I do have so many new subscribers and I have picked up so many new people that watch my videos so quickly, I thought I would just share a little bit about my own personal history of keeping fish and how it all got started for me, and you know, the types of fish I've kept and so on and so forth. It may surprise you. First of all, I've not been keeping fish very long. I always say there's two different kinds of experience. There's the kind of experience that comes from dealing with a lot of different subject matter, and then there's the kind of experience that comes with dealing with subject matter over a long period of time and becoming thoroughly familiar with it. So when I first started keeping fish, I kept a lot of fish frequently. I swapped out fish, I changed fish, I set up new tanks, I broke down new tanks. So I got a lot of experience that way. And before I get too far ahead of myself, it all started probably, I want to say, in 2011, possibly 2012. It all sort of blurs together for me these days. We'll say 2011. My wife brought home a little half-gallon corner tank that sat on her desk in her office, and she was told she couldn't keep it there, had to bring it home. So we suddenly had a fish tank in the kitchen. And I've always wanted a fish tank my whole life, but I always thought that it was beyond me. I didn't have the patience for it or whatever, and I just never really considered it an option. So when this tank came home, and I sort of saw that this isn't really hard, eventually I started taking a little bit more of an interest, and we moved all of those fish, and it was just a few guppies and a couple of endlers, and I want to say that's it. I think that's all that was in the tank, was a few guppies. We moved them into a 10-gallon tank just so they'd have more room, and of course once I did that I sort of added a few more fish, and boom, you know, I was sort of off and running from there. So as time went on, my friend of mine actually sort of took a renewed interest in his fish tank, And he spent a day cleaning it really thoroughly one day just to make it look nice and brand new. And his fish that had been sitting in there for many years without any issue were dead in a few days. And we were both baffled as to why this happened. So I did a little bit of research. It did not take me long to find the term new tank syndrome. And for the first time, I was introduced to the nitrogen cycle, and I was in love with fish keeping. It was fascinating. It suddenly opened the door to, instead of a box of water that fish were swimming around in, I always knew that there was some sort of balance that needed to be maintained or something. I never knew what it was. It was like magic to me. Well, once I learned what that was, again, it was just, I was off and running. I was fascinated by the hobby of fish keeping. And shortly after that, it sort of occurred to me in this thunderbolt of realization that there was nothing that said I could only have one fish tank. I'm sure we all know that feeling all too well. So I decided I was going to get a big tank, and I bought a 29-gallon tank that you all now know as my 29 miscellaneous tank. And I bought a 20-gallon tank not long after that, and probably another 10-gallon tank. And I was off to the races. I did all kinds of stuff with these fish tanks. I stacked them side by side and put it so that there was plants in between, and grew stuff in them and hung stuff out of them. I stacked them up on tables and surrounded them by so many plants you couldn't even tell there was a tank in the middle. It looked like a little water feature on a table. You name it, I tried it. I experimented with all kinds of plants from outside in my yard. I did indoor gardening. I tried all sorts of stuff with exterior lighting and hanging lights, and I just went wild. For about 2 years I did this, and I kept adding tanks, and I kept doing more stuff. The Big Chain Fish Store has a 2-week return policy, no questions asked. You just, I've taken fish back because I didn't like the color. I've taken fish back because I didn't like the behavior. And I basically went through, with the exception of African cichlids. I've never actually been interested in African cichlids. I don't know why. They've just never spurred my interest at all. But any other fish that I'm capable of keeping in my water, and of course in the early days I had no real understanding of that, so I attempted to keep a great many fish that I can't keep. I found that out by trying to keep these fish. I know I can't keep them now, and their deaths were what spurred me to do more research, and slowly but surely I learned about water chemistry. I learned about water hardness, on and on and on, and I just powered through fish keeping for 2 years. I did this relentlessly. And I would just keep fish for a couple weeks, and I'd take them back, and I'd get some other fish, and I'd bring them home, and I'd keep them, and I'd try different combinations of stuff. None of this was before I was, all of this rather, was before I was doing any kind of YouTube videos or anything. This was me just having fun down here in the basement. It looked very different than it does now, obviously. And I did a lot of weird stuff with the way I decorated tanks. The one that always strikes me the most, I'll never forget this tank because it was just awful. I was really proud of it at the time. I liked it for about a day, and then I just decided, God, that's awful. I can't pretend I like this anymore. So I tore it down and just did something else. And that's my point. It was just, I tried it. It was fun. It was creative. I explored the creative process, and it was something that really was a huge fail, and I did something else. And what it was, I took a 20-gallon standard tank. It'll be kind of hard to explain because this is really, really ridiculous what I did. I filled the bottom with, I believe it was black inert aquarium gravel. Those hard plastic, looks like gravel. I bought a bunch of really cheap dishes and glasses and stuff from the Walmart, and I filled them with the gravel, and I stacked them on top like in geometric shapes with like white plates with black gravel on it, and then I set wine glasses on them, and I had gravel in the wine glasses with plants growing out of that. And then in the back of the tank I actually put mylar, effectively putting mirror sheeting behind the tank. So everything was all this harsh, stark, and black and white, and real geometric shapes made out of dishes and glasses and wine glasses and stuff. And then I had a mirror backing, and then I had 2 Blackmore goldfish swimming around in that monstrosity, and it was awful. It really was awful. But it was fun, and I just, I've been thinking all day about those early days of me just having fun and doing just all kinds of stuff. I've done obviously I started with the SpongeBob house, but I never really was into the pirate ships or the sunken planes. I've always done natural plants. I've never particularly cared for, been interested in the brightly colored artificial plants. I started with some plastic plants out of necessity in certain tanks, and until I got my feet under me a little bit and was a little better at keeping plants in tanks. And I just got a ton of experience in those first couple years. And a friend of mine down at my good fish store, I was complaining one day because I saw somebody doing something on YouTube that I had done, and they were talking about it as being like the first time and he said, you know what, if you had done a video of it, they wouldn't be able to say it was the first time ever done because you'd already done it. And I decided at that moment that he's right. I'm just going to start shooting video of all the stuff I do. Now, I've come a long way since then, and if you have ever wondered why all of my tanks sort of look the same and they have the same sort of feel, and I've got them sort of set up the same way with the way the water flows and the way the filters are set up, that's not because of a lack of creativity or experimentation or whatever. That's because of all of that. This is what I've settled on over years of doing this. Now, I'll grant you it's only been 4 or 5 years of doing this, but for the average person that might have 1 or 2 tanks, you can only do so much so quickly. I had 16 tanks up and running at one point. And I've done a saltwater tank, which I found out fairly quickly. I'm just not really interested in the saltwater. I gave it a shot. It was alright. Not my thing. I have my brackish tank. I've tried little nano tanks. I've eventually gotten up into these larger tanks. I actually like the larger tanks a lot more. They just suit my personality more. I'm just not the kind of person that's going to fiddle with these high maintenance nano tanks. I'm not the kind of person that's going to set up a nano tank to be very low maintenance. It's the tricky thing when you get into these really small amounts of water. A larger tank is much easier to maintain. And again, this is all just through trial and error, through experience. I can't tell you how many fish have come and gone through this room. Most of them have come and gone in bags of water. A lot of them have gone via the toilet. I've lost a lot of fish. I don't so much anymore, but in the beginning I really overshot my capabilities. I was more confident than I should have been. And that's actually one of the things I've learned. One of the things that I like so much about this hobby is not only do I learn about fish keeping and chemistry and ecology and biology and all of that goes with the fish keeping, I learn about myself. I've learned so much about my own self, my own personality with my fish tanks over the years. It's just been a great experience all the way around. And that, again, is really all my YouTube channel really is for. I'm not some kind of instructor. I'm not any professional. I haven't been doing this my whole life. I'm just here to share my experiences, and just sort of document what I'm doing as I'm doing it. If I can give pointers, if I can share my experience, hey, I've done this in the past, or I understand how this works, or whatever, and I can pass that on to other people, that's fantastic. But if not, if you're just here to watch and enjoy, that's great too. I really do like the very community sort of atmosphere my channel has. Again, getting back to so many subscribers so quickly. It's just a really good overall interactive positive experience. But the point to all of my discussing my earlier experience is I realize that a lot of my viewers are new to fish keeping, or fairly new to fish keeping. So just let that be a lesson to you. You don't start keeping tanks that look like this the first year you've been keeping fish. I honestly really now just feel like I'm really solidly getting my feet under me and can confidently say I kind of know what I'm doing when it comes to keeping fish. Now that's only the fish I've got experience with. I've read about, again, let's say African cichlids, but I've never kept them. I don't have any experience with them, but I can read about them. And so that's something completely different. So I'm not going to, I don't answer questions about stuff like that. I don't answer questions about saltwater tanks. I just don't have any experience with that kind of stuff to speak of. I finally feel like I'm getting experience with these more soft water type tanks, these more sort of variety tanks. I'm getting a lot more understanding about community tanks and how communities work better together. And it's taken me years of really intense fish keeping to do that. So don't you know, be hard on yourself if you're not an expert fish keeper after 6 months of doing it. Have fun with it, you know. Don't be shy about experimenting and trying different things and trying new things. Nothing in your tank is nailed to the bottom. You can always move it around or rearrange it or whatever, and try different things. Experiment with different stuff. If you don't like the way the waters flow, and move your filter around, change the lighting. Just have fun with it. That's what the hobby is supposed to be all about. You know, people that aren't in the hobby sit and stare at fish and look at fish. People that are in the hobby do stuff with their fish. And that's kind of one of my problems, and why I have so many tanks now, is it's hard for me to just sit and watch my fish. I'm always wanting to tinker and do stuff, and I absolutely love the creative process of putting a tank together. Honestly, if I could just design tanks, put them together for 6 weeks, and then chuck them in and design and build another tank, honestly, they'd all look pretty much the same or very similar, but each one would be its own unique little creation and design. And it's just a blast doing it, and it should be. So that's just a little bit about my own personal history. Hopefully that's a little bit of encouragement. Anybody that might feel like they're a little stuck, or maybe they're not moving along as fast as they think they should be or whatever, don't worry about it. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. It's a great hobby. You know, thanks again for subscribing. Thanks for so many views and so many people watching and sharing my videos, liking them, commenting, and interacting with each other. Of course, you're certainly welcome to make new friends and ask questions and interact with each other on my channel as well. So here is to next year. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how many subs to even try to predict, so I'm not going to. I know the more subs I get, the faster, you know, obviously the more people that are watching my video and sharing and commenting and liking, the more exposure I get, which is why all that stuff's so important to me, and I really do genuinely appreciate it. So if that continues, and at the rate I'm going, maybe we'll be beyond 10,000 for next December 27th, my next anniversary. So if you were here for my first anniversary and you're still here for my second, that's awesome. If you're here for this one, I really hope I see you next year on my third anniversary. So thanks again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you real soon, and lots of good stuff coming up.